Hebert, which is French, but that is also a pronunciation. Thank you so much. First, we'd like to welcome everyone from coming to this book chat. And we are here to tell you a little bit about this new book, Drawn to the Mountains, Mid-Century Migrants to Steamboat Springs. We were told that some of you have already read the book, and I'd like to know how many. If you could raise your hand if you've read the book. Great, great. The book contains brief life stories of 16 people who moved to Steamboat Springs in the 1960s and 1970s as young adults. And I'd like to ask, how many of you came in that period of time? Great, yeah. Well, I'd like to also say that six of the authors, the contributors to the book, are here with us. And maybe you could stand up and be recognized.
You didn't stand up.
Oh, give her a break.
Well, you can raise your hand up, okay.
I'll just note it's Michael Arselich, Linda Cackler, Leslie Lovejoy, Paul Stedner, Arianthi Stedner, and Ben Bell. And did I miss anybody? Great. So we're really so happy for you to be here. Those of us in our age group, or even a little younger, may remember that the time of this book, the 60s and 70s, was a movement of young people all across the U.S. And many of those were considered hippies. We wanted to find out with this book why these 16 came to Steamboat during that era. Were they hippies? Yeah, or not? Or what they came from different parts of the country. So,
excuse me, sir.
Yeah, great to have you. Good. So we wanted to find out why these young adults at that time came to Steamboat during that era. And as I said, we wanted to know, were they hippies, or what were they? What was it like, and why did they come? Stepping back a bit, the idea for this book came about one evening in September 2023 on our back deck. Michael Arselich, known to most of you as Muck Tuck,
sitting right here.
Sitting right here. He and I had just come from playing golf, and I invited him to come and sit on our back porch and let's just chat. Mayling joined us, and somehow we got onto the subject of how Muck Tuck, had come to Steamboat as a 20-year-old in 1971, how he found housing, how he made a living. What did he have to go through to make this transition from San Diego, correct?
Correct.
To Steamboat Springs? We found his story really interesting and compelling. And then Muck Tuck began to tell us about other people that he knew that came about the same time. And we also knew a few people that came around that time as well. So we shared with him the story of how we came to Steamboat in 1985, a little bit later than those featured in the book, and how we tried to make our careers work in this rather remote location here in Steamboat, as many people did. When Muck left, Mayling turned to me and said, stories like this could be put into a book. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we began contacting people we knew and people who were referred to us to gather their stories. So we gathered these stories for the next 2 years. And we did editing, we did a back and forth with the writers, and we interviewed some others who were not prepared to do the writing themselves. And it was in all a 2.5 year process as people evoked memories and they tried to decide what was going in their stories and what they would leave out. And we finished this process in January of this year, in 2026. And the book was just published this April. What we discovered that everyone had an interesting story. And we didn't really know necessarily how that would turn out. Most of the people in the book actually knew each other, but didn't know their backstories. So it was really a delightful experience for all of us, for the entire group, to learn about each other in more detail. The biggest takeaway, both of us, Mayling and I, thought after the process, is that all the people in this book contributed something significant to the community that we live in today here in Steamboat Springs and the Yampa Valley. Some were artists, others worked in construction when they first came, particularly, because those were the main jobs that were really available. And many of the buildings that we see today they participated in that process. Several served in leadership positions such as county commissioner, planning commission, city council, historic preservation, teachers, and writers. Entrepreneurs, environmental preservation advocates, school board members, and nonprofit leaders. Their stories reveal how people change and grow over time. They arrived planning, as many people did, to ski and have fun, and ended up being our community leaders and still having a heck of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So these stories, we feel also, could be an inspiration for young adults who are arriving at this particular time and over the last few years. So before we get into a little more detail about the book and ask questions from you, I'm going to turn it over to Mayling, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the book itself.
Yep. Again, welcome. Thank you for coming. You know, authors are really delighted when they give a book talk that more than one person shows up. So it's really wonderful to see all your faces. We're going to run through the book. You're going to see who's in it, and I'm just going to highlight one or two little points about each person. The stories are very rich. They're very funny. There's a bit of tragedy as well in them, and so I will not do it justice standing up here and giving you just an overview. You have to really read the book to get to get the richness and the depth of it all. But these are amazing stories, and I will also say the book is turned out to be extremely popular, more than we had ever anticipated. So it's right now, I mean, the bookstore downtown says that it's the best-selling book right now. Oh, so yeah, and we just started it as a little fun project, so you never know. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we said they came in the 60s and 70s. They formed the Route County we live in today. But what drew them to the mountains? That's what we wanted to know. So after we got these 16 stories, we thought, oh my goodness, what are we going to do with them? How are we going to organize this? This is kind of chaos, you know. And we began to realize that they fell into at least 5 categories. Now let me say that some people had more than one category, so, but I had to divide them up some way. So primarily back to the land, skiing and outdoor life, or after a breakup, following a friend or relative, or to make music. So back to the land people. Linda and Wayne Catlin and the Barn Lodge. Many of you may know this place. Linda's here. Linda is the writer of her story. Wayne passed away in 2008. But they, for a while, were the main vortex, you might say, of the young community, young adult community of people who lived here. And so many people in the book, I think 7 of them, at one time or another lived at the barn, the lodge in the loft. They eventually turned this barn from a little ski lodge into more permanent residences over time. And Linda told us that 27 couples met and married at the barn.
Wow.
And only 2 divorced. And it was the same person twice. Wayne described himself as a bohemian. Was Linda a hippie? I don't know. She wouldn't admit it if she was. But we were all in that age group. We were all a little hippie-ish. We all wore our tie-dye shirts and bandanas around our heads and sandals and fringed bags and so forth. So we were all, I think, in that age group, following at least some of the clothing styles at that time. Wayne is known for his devotion to the Steamboat Mountain School, his river trips, and his sculptures that you will see around town. Linda became a key staff member of the Steamboat Springs city government, and she brought in millions of dollars for city projects. Okay, that's just a taste of the calculus. We move on to Bob Baker.
There they are.
Oh, there's Wyndham Lane in 1964. Yeah, that's sweet. And then Bob Baker. Have any of you ever taken a course from Bob Baker at the college? A few of you have. I team taught with him. That's how I got to know Bob. Bob had a PhD in history, and I was the anthropologist, and we loved to team teach there. He was a self-described hippie. Even though he was a PhD and an academic, he said he moved between those 2 worlds.
You're allowed to be hippies.
Yeah, yes. He, after leaving a position at CSU, where he was a teacher, and that's a whole story in itself, he came to Route County with a friend to start a horse ranch out near Pittsburgh. And after many adventures and hilarious misadventures that he writes about, Bob ended up returning to academia and becoming the beloved professor at CMC here in Steamboat. And he's now retired on his ranch in South Route. I need some water. It's gone dry. Yeah, sorry. And next, we have skiing and outdoor life. Almost all of them came for skiing and outdoor life, but there was a bunch here. So we have Paul Narianthi Stetner here. Paul is a professional civil engineer, and he's one of the few migrants who came here and was able to work in his profession. Almost all these migrants in the book had college degrees. Some had master's degrees, but they ended up maybe working in construction or some other field. Whereas Paul was able to find a professional engineering job here in Steamboat, and he was involved in some of the construction that we see around here, and I think including Oak Creek. We met Paul and Arianthe. Arianthe is a fine arts weaver, was a fine arts weaver, and now she's a fine historian in our county. We met them in Iran in 1974.
You can't go far enough, right?
Otherwise, we wouldn't have come here to Steamboat, I'm sure. So we met them in Iran by chance. There weren't very many foreigners in southern Iran in 1974, so it really was a chance meeting. They invited us to their home in a little Arab village south of the city that we lived in. And on their coffee table was a copy of the Steamboat Pilot. And we were from Richmond, Virginia, and I thought I would never have the Richmond Times-Dispatch sent all the way to southern Iran every week. But the Stetners had their paper regularly mailed to them from Steamboat Springs. And I thought, what kind of a place is this? And they began telling us about Steamboat. So in 1979, they invited us to come and visit. And we did, and we fell in love with Steamboat, but we didn't stay then. We came back in 1985 and stayed. But we said in 79, someday we'll come back and live here. So that's how we got here. And if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have this book. Just think about it. Paul is an example of a person that probably exists, there are probably more of them that I know about, who worked to live here rather than live to work. Does that make sense? Yeah. He just really enjoyed the outdoor opportunities that this valley offered and beyond. So we'll go on to Les Lyman. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I left out an important part. Paul loved, and Arianthe loved, river rafting. And so this was, what year was this, Paul? Sometime in the 1970s.
69 or 70.
Yeah, okay. They created these rafts and went down the Colorado River.
Wow,
And then
that's scary.
Les and Linda Lyman. Les Lyman, you may know him as the trash guy. He came here as a ski bum in 1969 after serving in the military. And he used his business background to establish a highly successful waste management business here in Routt County, but eventually in other parts of the state. He really took a chance on trash, as we say, and he has also become one of the Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club's strongest supporters, and Les served on many years on city council. So his story is very long and very rich. Next. I'm moving through this fast so that we can have a discussion.
Mayling.
Oh, I forgot. I'm not very good at this, am I? The one thing that Les did that was very unique, as you know, is he formed the Milner Mall, which was which was where
I used to work there.
reusable waste was stored, and you could come and get some for free, and you could buy other bits. So Gail and Charlie Holzhausen made the Phoenix Dragon from the waste at the Milner Mall, and this is a very famous piece, and it now rests in Arizona.
In a museum.
Wow.
In a museum.
In a museum, yeah, museum in Arizona. Okay, Mike Brawl, Nature's Guide. So Mike was a corporate guy, and he worked for Kodak in Texas, and he was getting promotions, and he was moving up the corporate ladder. And he and his wife came to ski here in Steamboat, and that was it. He said he came across the Rabbit Ears Pass, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so they eventually moved here, and he became an outdoor enthusiast. He was a ski guide. He had a boat in Alaska where he served as a sea captain in the summers, and then a cross-country ski guide in the winters at the home ranch. Also another really interesting and very rich story. Next. Noreen Moore.
All right.
Yeah. Pizza and more. So Noreen came as a ski bum. She's a self-described ski bum and hippie. She said she wasn't a hippie, but then when we probed a little bit, kind of came out. She arrived here with a bachelor's degree in biology, and the intention when she got her biology degree was to work in a lab. But she came out here skiing, first in Aspen, I believe, and then here, and fell in love with Steamboat, as we do. And she came back in 1971 with her boyfriend named Denty, and they opened a pizza restaurant in Oak Creek. Some of you probably have been to that pizza restaurant. I have. And she is really a force of nature, I'm telling you. She initiated so many local projects that are too numerous for me to mention here today, but they're in the book. But what we like most about her story is that it is so funny. So funny. You must read it. Next. Millie Bell. Millie Bell came before Ben Bell, by the way, and has her own story in the book. She came as a self-described hippie and ski bum in 1971. But as she said, over the years we grew up. She evolved in what we call the ultimate volunteer. She served for years on the Steamboat Springs School Board and was a director of United Way for many years, and she helped to found the nonprofit Integrated Community along with her husband, Ben. Next. After a breakup. Oh, this is a good place to come after a breakup. For one thing, if you're female, there are plenty of males. Irene Nelson. Loved Irene Nelson's story. After her breakup, Irene decided to move her family from Chicago, which included 4 children and 2 dogs and a cat. And she moved them in a sunshine biscuit truck. Can we have a picture of that? There you go. Plus, Les Lyman was in the process of buying a new garbage truck from Ohio. And they ran into each other, and Les said, well, I can run my garbage truck from Ohio across to Chicago and take any extra furniture that you have. Wow. So she arrived in a sunshine biscuit truck and a garbage truck. And that truck in itself deserves a chapter, but someday in the future. That truck passed through many hands and had many adventures itself. Irene was one of the most creative people I think I've ever known. She did some stuff at our house. She became a very well-known decorator and interior designer in Steamboat, and in fact throughout the Southwest. She was really brilliant. Let's go. The Walkers, Gigi and Johnny Walker. Okay. Gigi arrived here in Steamboat in 1974 with a degree in speech therapy. And she initially worked for Horizons. I think all of you know what Horizons is. And over time, Gigi evolved as an artist and an environmental activist in the county. Next. Following a friend or a relative. A few people followed a friend or a relative. First was Muktuk, Michael Arselich. There he is with his golfing. He joined a friend here in Steamboat in 1971 after his mother offered to buy him a one-way ticket out of San Diego anywhere in the U.S.
Wow.
And he had, you can see how he tempted this book, you know. He started out with this story my mom wanted to get rid of. And so he established his own leather working shop and shoe repair business, and he became a well-known balloon pilot and skydiver, stuff that I never knew about him. He's amazing. Let's go on.
Oh, there he is.
There he is skydiving.
Wow. Yeah.
Sariva Tower. Sariva was probably the oldest person in the book. Not that she was ever really old, but she was born before most of the other people. Sariva grew up in the Washington, D.C. area and was living there. But she had been a former student at Perry Mansfield in the 1950s. And as a result, she had never really let go of her love of the valley. So in 1972, her daughter, Judy, went to Perry Mansfield. And Sariva drove across the U.S. From Washington to Steamboat in '72 to pick up her daughter from the camp. And her daughter got in the car and said, "Mom, I never want to leave this place." And Sarita said, "Me too." So they never went back. She moved in temporarily with some friends that she knew who had moved to Steamboat, and they helped her get settled, and she was here ever since. She married a local cowboy. His stories are hilarious, and she became one of Routt County's most well-known and beloved writers. Next. Ben Bell. Oh, Ben's sitting over there. Ben was a former Navy SEAL. He has an illustrious educational background I won't go into here. But what happened to Ben? His brother and sister invited him out here in 1973 to put on Steamboat's first Easter egg hunt. And the rest is history. He moved here. He met Millie, that cute little redheaded girl, in a bar. And he married her, and then he worked in construction and carpentry and became known as the Yampa Valley watchdog against unconstrained development. Those are my words.
You should be working now.
He's still working on it. He's never stopped. He and Paul Stetner in the back. Next. So Johnny Walker. Johnny came after Gigi. That's why he's later in the book. Johnny has a fascinating story. He nearly lost his life in his early 20s in a construction accident. I think it was in the Washington, D.C. area. And he barely survived. And after that, he sort of had a revelation that life is to be enjoyed, you know. And he moved to Steamboat in 1974 following his mother and her second husband who had moved here to Stagecoach. And then he left, and as he was leaving, I think he left on a bus, he picked up a Steamboat Pilot newspaper, and in it was an ad for a bus driver for the new free buses. This is '74. And when he got back to the Washington, D.C. area, he made a phone call, and he says, "Is this job still open?" And they said yes, and he turned around and came right back and was the first free bus driver in Steamboat Springs. Johnny was one of my students at CMC for a while. That's how I got to know him. And he finally got his college degree and became a middle school shop teacher here in Steamboat. And now we have Leslie Lovejoy, who could speak for herself, but I won't let her. So we called her painting the person who painted the world, because she lived in Europe for several years, and she came to and painted there, painted many pictures there. She came to Steamboat in 1976, following a boyfriend, and she never left. She became an accomplished artist here. The boyfriend left, but Leslie was hooked, and she stayed here, and she became an outdoor enthusiast and an environmental activist, and she's made a lasting impression on this county, and you'll find out why when you read her story. Next. Making music. We have two guys who came here to make music.
If you know Joe now, you'll see the very little resemblance.
Don't you love it? And don't you know we all looked like that? You know, 30, 40 years ago? Oh my God. Joe came here to ski, but he didn't feel like he could make really, he couldn't become famous here as an artist. He's a guitarist and musician and singer and very talented person. So he's an example of somebody who left and then came back. And there are a lot of those around. So he came to the Yampa Valley in 1971. Then he left for 25 years to seek his fortune in California. And by that I mean being an entertainer. And then he realized his fortune was here, and he returned. And since returning, I guess about 15 years ago or so, he continues to entertain our community at the press, at Casey's Pond, and elsewhere around the county. Extremely talented person. It was his life with his wife was very, very challenging. No, not because of her. Their life together was very challenging, trying to make it in the music scene in California. And that is part of the interesting part of his story. And then finally, Randy Kelly. A number of you might know Randy. Randy trained as a geologist and had a bachelor's degree or a master's, I don't remember which, in geology. But he met a girl from Steamboat. And so he would come to Steamboat to visit her. And he became totally enamored with the place. And I mean, he worked about 8 months as a geologist up in Wyoming and then quit. And came down here for the girl. And this was 1976. And then what was he going to do for a living? Well, he did a lot of different things for a living, but mainly he was a musician. And he was a self-taught musician. He'd never had a lesson, and he plays fiddle, and he plays guitar, and he's fabulous. He got caught up in the local music scene here with his girlfriend. The girlfriend and he did not work out, but he stayed. He eventually married Mary, and he became a very prominent music teacher. And so he and Joe together play every week at Casey's Pond. So that's just a very quick and brief and dirty roundup of this book. And there's so much more. The stories tell you what it was like to live here in the 1960s and 70s, how they made it, you know. It's fascinating. So I give a big round of applause to all the people who wrote for this book. So we'll take questions.
Yep.
If you have any, or comments, whatever.
I was surprised. I've been here 26 years, and I thought that the Vietnam War had more to do with why that age group came. That if they had gotten a high number in the lottery draft, that they knew they were free. They could, they could go have these adventures. But it doesn't show up in the book at all.
It does. Of course, half of the people in the book are women. So it would be less likely they would have gone to Vietnam, but I think Ben went to Vietnam, didn't he?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he served in Vietnam.
It's interesting how, I served in the Army myself, and it's interesting how those who did serve, particularly those who went to Vietnam, are in two categories. One, these people and they're now in our age group in the 70s and so forth. That's all they talk about. And then there's another group who never really want to go back and talk about it.
Really?
Yeah.
My dad was in Vietnam, and my brother was there at the same time. They never said a word about it.
Yeah.
Because it's so traumatic.
So horrible.
Anyway, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
I'm from Vermont, and we had a similar influx of hippies in the 60s and 70s, but we had a lot of communes. A lot. You didn't mention that. Were there communes here? Was that
Sort of.
barn a commune?
Sort of.
I think if you read Mugtuck's story, he alludes to the Strawberry Park Hot Springs commune, which
Commune.
was not
Okay.
officially a commune, but it really was sort of one.
It was, and if it wasn't for our landlord, Frank Bradley Sr., many of you have lived here for years, that's Elwood's brother, and also Melvin's brother, who lived down in Hayden for many years, down in Milner for many years. Why he did it, let us, every year he'd show up and pull out a piece of paper, sign this for the insurance on the land, and 25 signatures would be on there.
Yeah.
Little places to live all over, including many famous
And
still residents.
we think if we scratched hard enough around Oak Creek, we would probably find there was a
Oh,
commune there.
There were
Was
many little mini communes like this
Yeah,
all
the
over.
small ones all around Oak Creek, many hippies in Oak Creek, much
In
more
Yampa.
than here. Maybe, I don't know, we haven't scratched that surface yet, but there may have been. Yeah.
So, Paul, I wanted to point out that Julie and I are some of those couples that met at the bar and married. Not the one that divorced twice. And then my other thing is, I am sure that picture of Joe is photoshopped.
Probably. That was his professional photo. Yeah. I almost put it on the cover, but then I thought everybody will think this book is about Joe Gilliam, so I didn't do it. But I loved that photo. Yes.
Did Leslie do your cover painting?
No, a person named Laura Varsavsky did the cover. She was born and raised in Steamboat. And the cover, the painting is from a photograph of Ben Bell. Yeah.
So Ben Bell is the
Ben-
person skiing on the
Ben-
cover of the book.
Yeah. It's a painting of a picture of him.
Up at Hans Peak.
Here, I'll
At
go back.
Hans
Oh,
Peak.
Hans Peak.
Yeah.
There you go. Huh. That's great.
I was over at his house and saw this on the wall. We had been going through trying to figure out a cover, and I took one look at it and said,
This is it.
This is it. Now,
Yeah.
Ben was not as enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
When I read the book, I felt like the term hippies was used negatively.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm wondering, did people who lived here at that time, well, other than the
Oh,
people
some of the
other than people
locals.
who beat them up, but
Some of the locals, what we're told, because I didn't experience this, but some of the locals I'm told looked kind of askance at hippies, but other people said no, we were very welcome. So it was a variety of responses to looking like a hippie. And that just meant probably long hair and jeans and a tie-dye shirt and sandals and maybe a beard and Mark could describe it.
Well, my first night in town, I got off the Continental Trailways bus with my free ticket. A backpack, very scant amount of clothing and a couple of Indian blankets in it. And so I walked up and down Lincoln Avenue just to all the way up and down one side and down the other. And I got to the FM lights, and they got all the cowboy stuff in the window, and right at the front of the window was this big replica Bowie knife. And it had on it a price tag of $29.95 for a hippie hat sizer. So it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, I would say, in a lot of cases like that, but there was definitely people who were opposed to any hippies coming around here, and especially, the older generation, the older ranchers and whatnot, they were not too into it, but eventually all those people, the Lockharts became good friends over the years. That I repaired shoes, or they'd bring things to fix that might have gone wrong with their shoes or boots. And same with the Harwig family. They became excellent friends over many, many years, and I'm so grateful to them.
So it wasn't anything strong. It was just they were different.
You got two hands back there, Brian. Go ahead, and then Brian.
I was working at the high school. I came here in 1973, and the kids referred to one another as the hippies and the stomps. And the stomps were the branch kids.
Yeah.
And the hippies all wore hiking boots.
Oh, hiking boots, okay. Yeah, yeah, back,
So, we moved up here full-time 4 years ago, but I've been coming up here since the early 70s because it's probably been one of my favorite ski areas ever. I knew a couple of the locals here, but our go-to place was the tugboat. And where, for all these people who are longtime residents, where were your go-to places here in town, and are any of them still around?
Well, you know, the tugboat's gone, but yeah, go
In
ahead.
the early years, the cave-in was the place to go. And it was a dance, it had an enormous dance floor, and everyone gathered there. Where was it?
a lot of the old
Right on
places
the
are mentioned in the book.
corner of
Yeah.
40 and Mount Warner Road. And it was
Yeah.
this large warehouse place, and it was a restaurant at the time, so you could go and have dinner. We primarily went to dance and of course.
Before the underpass there,
Yeah.
when that was a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben?
Linda, a bit,
I
Ben.
think if you read the book, there's plenty of comments about the cameo.
Yeah.
A lot of us met our wives in the cameo. And after work, everybody would go there. Well, one of the things about the place, and what I think is interesting, when we got here in the early 70s, picture there was only 2,500 people in Steamboat Springs. But we had to go through the same kind of housing problems kids are doing today and all that sort of thing. So the book is really interesting. I hope that generation will read the book and see that we all went through the
Yeah.
same problems that they're
Us
having
too.
today. And we love the place and made it, and yeah. But the cameo, the tugboat for sure.
Steinkeller.
Steinkeller.
There was a place called the Brandywine. All those things are kind of the names have kind of changed, and they're not bars anymore. We spent a lot of time in bars drinking a cheap beer.
And they're all mentioned in the book. All this
Yeah.
cultural background is in there.
Linda.
I have two quick observations. One about the hippies and the cowboys. And that was considered the diversity of Steamboat. Yeah. And to that note, when Wayne died in 2009, and the Lockharts were all at the gathering, and Cookie told this great story about how very early on, I would guess 1965, Cy Lockhart said, "You know what those damn hippies are doing out at that old barn? They're living in it." Anyway, as Mugtuck said, Cy Lockhart and all the Lockharts became eventually very, very good friends. And when Cy himself died, Wayne and I tended his grave for a number of years while their family was away. But it was very rich time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did say something to Wayne one time about him being a hippie, and he goes, "I am not a hippie. I was a beatnik."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is recounted in the book.
Oh, no, it's Bohemian.
No, but he called himself a bohemian.
He called himself a Bohemian. Maybe he called himself a beatnik too. Yeah.
He was coming from the San Francisco
Yeah.
coffee houses. And to that end, I would just add, we all had to find ways to make a living. And one of the first things we did was we converted the what is now the living room of the barn, into the first coffee house between Denver and San Francisco. And it was just amazing because all of the students and artists from Perry Mansfield would come over almost every night. And all of those students from actually all over the world at Yampa U would come over for the evening, and we'd just have great, actually intellectual conversations far into the night. It was a wonderful time. And we made $35.
Anyone else? Well, again, Mayling, I thank you for coming.
Wait.
We got one. Oh,
You're
please.
too quick.
You had mentioned at another gathering that you had to do quite a bit of editing, stories.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Okay.
Well, like any writer producing any book, I don't care how experienced they are, they go through a lot of drafts, right? There's a lot of editing because your thinking develops, and you got to get your timeline straight, and you think of, oh, I should have put that in, and I should take that out, and so forth. So there was a lot of back and forth with the various contributors. It was kind of hard for some, to remember everything they wanted to put in. The memories were evoking. So, yes, over a 2-year period, we did a lot of back and forth. Paul and I wanted to make sure we understood the story, and so we would read it and have a lot of questions and go back to the writers or the people that we interviewed for revisions. But that's just normal. Yeah. And a lot of people in the book had never really written a memoir type piece before. Maybe had not written since college, perhaps, or had written, formal reports, but had not done this kind of writing. So it took a while for all of us to, get on the same page. But that's just a very normal part of the process. Yeah. I mean, even I wrote the preface and the introduction probably 5 times. Even my bits and the conclusions I went through. I sent them to Ben and to different, I think Linda and probably Arianthe and different people to give me feedback, which it resulted in more editing. But that's
part
normal.
of the process.
That's part of the process.
And that's what takes so long. And
yeah.
Also, it was not easy when you're dealing with 15, 16 people.
15 or 16 cats.
Yeah.
Like herding cats.
But I must say, the contributors to the book were very patient with Mayling and myself. Because
for the most part.
For the most part, some more than others.
I know who's that is.
We did reject some changes.
Yeah. It was an iterative process. I mean, truly, it was not just iterative. It was just back and forth all the time until we got it, until everybody was happy.
Well, I was thinking before we all head out, the contributors specifically, if I could get a photo of you with Paul and Mayling before we get all chit-chatty. But if there's any other questions.
I just wanted to point out that Paul actually has a book about his life, A Life Guided by Honor. Is that how?
No, that's Mayling's book,
Okay.
but it's about, it's another
It's
book.
about his class, Virginia Military Institute class, and
Very interesting.
what happened to them. Yeah, and it's also a history of Virginia Military Institute, so it's together. It's called Lives Guided by Honor because I did a survey of his class just asking them questions about their lives, but I didn't ask anything about the honor code. But what they gave me back was how much the honor code had influenced their lives and the decisions they'd made in life. And it gave me chills, actually, to read their responses. All the responses were open-ended. I didn't have any tick-the-box questions. It was all write whatever you want to write. And it was just amazing. It blew me away. So I ended up calling the book Lives Guided by Honor because that is actually what happened to that class. And it is really inspiring, and it makes you realize how important honor is to keep our society on track.
That book's also available in the bookstore.
That is 2024. That came out April 2024. Yeah.
I haven't bought the book yet, but I intend to. But is there a chapter in there about your lives?
In Drawn to the Mountains?
Yeah.
No.
It's only about how we met the Stetners and.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your own experience here?
Sure.
Here?
Sorry.
In Steamboat Springs?
Yeah, in Steamboat Springs. Where do we begin? We moved here in 1985 with 2 little children. And our intention, Paul and I are both, Paul has a PhD in public health engineering. I have a PhD in anthropology and public health. So we're both in the public health field. We had been living abroad, working in the Philippines and Iran. And we realized our careers were going to look like that we had gotten the kind of degrees that would be global public health. When we moved here, we thought that we will do consulting out of here. And after about 3.5 years of mostly Paul traveling almost constantly, and me traveling a little bit and raising 2 children, we decided that this wasn't working out too well. But we'd already bought a house, which we still have. And so we went to, Paul got a job in Nepal, and we went to Nepal for 1.5 years. Then I got a job with the World Health Organization in Geneva, and he followed me.
Wow.
And we went there for 7.5 years. And then we came back here. I had to put my mother in the dog walker. So I came back here, put her in the dog walker, cared for her until she passed away. I mean, I didn't, not daily care, but in the dog walker. Okay, and Paul continued his international work during that time.
With the United Nations.
With the United Nations. And then after my mother passed away, we went off again to Serbia and Kosovo and that area. And then we went to Ethiopia, and then Kenya. But we came back once a year to reconnect with our friends here, to do maintenance on our house, sometimes to find a new renter, whatever. We always came back at least once a year and maintained our connection. So in 2010, at the end of 2010, we retired and we moved back to Steamboat, and we've been here since 2010. Many of the people in the book we met before 2010.
Most of them.
Most of them. We've known because I had taught at CMC from time to time, and through the Stetners we met their whole gang, and through Linda Kakala we met her whole gang, and she would invite us to winter solstice and
correct.
What's
Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest, and so we tried to keep our friends here, tried to keep it going, and it was a really different life from most of the people in the book. And our kids grew up mainly abroad, but now they're here. They said that they would never live here when they were teenagers because it was too small. And here they are. So we have a daughter in Hayden with her family, and we have a son in Oak Creek with
And
his
they
family.
own the meat bar in town.
Oh, yeah.
Son and his wife.
Yeah. So does that satisfy you?
There's a little bit more detail, my history in the Lives Guided by Honor, because we had like 4 of my classmates, Mayling, featured in the book, And so there's a little bit about my life and Mayling along with that in that book. Yeah, we're thinking about maybe it's time to write something about
This crazy life
This
we've
crazy
led.
life.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
You know, it is. It's really kind of different.
But this book just ended up being something we wanted as a project. It was just it was really fun doing it and getting to know our friends much better than we otherwise would have.
Because we didn't know their backstories.
Yeah, we didn't know the backstories, and I think those backstories are fun. And as someone has said, it's really a missing part of the history in Steamboat. There's a lot about the settlers who came and the ski area and the skiers and the ranchers, but nothing about ordinary folk who came in that period. We call it
Who made a tremendous impact on this county. When you'll see when you read the book how it all developed, and and we want to say also that we know that there are many more that are not in the book.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to form a group, we'll help you get started.
A sequel.
A sequel. But somebody said, what was the criteria for including certain people in the book? And we had no criteria. We just knew people, and then they would refer us to people, and it was like, I call it the potluck book, because you never know at a potluck who's going to bring what to the table, and that's exactly what this book was like. We didn't know what they were going to bring to the book. So some people who consider themselves more famous in Steamboat have complained to us. I wasn't in the book, and I thought, well, I didn't know you. I mean, that was the only criteria, was to know me. But it was just done as a fun project. But it has hit a note in this community that the book has turned out to be pretty popular.
Well, thank you for capturing that.
Yeah.